IVF. Go.
Oh, wow.
Do it.
Man, IVF brings up all kind of emotions and feelings and questions and ethical dilemmas. This is a big topic. So, all right. I'll try to break it down in a few different ways. One, I have seen where IVF can be... All right. I guess I'll back it all the way back up.
Mm-hmm.
Do I believe...
In the beginning.
In the beginning, it was God. Do I believe that the fertilization of an egg that's happening outside of the body is okay? Yes.
Okay, because that has to happen.
That has to happen first.
During surrogacy also, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They have to get both things from two people and then put it together and then put it inside something.
Right. So
this is just
yes,
stopping in the middle of that process.
Right. So this is for IVF, you're doing that, and so I'm okay with that. All right.
Okay.
In ethically at large, but what I'm also going to say though is that every single one of those embryos they are like that's a human being.
Okay.
And that's where we start going down the ethical parts of this.
Okay.
Right. So there are some couples that go through IVF, obviously, because they cannot have children outside of it.
Okay.
It is the only way for them to have kids.
So explain the process.
So you've got you got two individuals, and usually something is going on in the woman's body.
Okay.
Okay. It's not always the case, but usually something's going on with the woman's body. So therefore IVF is, decided upon, and you do that. And sometimes the woman's body has to, go through surgeries. There's obviously the woman has to be injected there's like a hormone treatment they have to go through. It's pretty rigorous. Just for the IVF purpose.
Oh.
Yeah, so that woman's body will be able to hold the embryo.
Okay.
And be okay. So there's the hormone treatments, and then there's the sometimes surgeries have to happen to keep the body from attacking the embryo. So there's a lot of variables. Not everyone's situation is the same, right?
Right.
So you've got a lot of medical variables. So you could be listening to this going, well, we went through IVF and it wasn't because of these things. And I get that. So there's a lot of medical variance in it.
Okay.
But as far as the ethicalness part, the ethical part of, is it okay to fertilize the egg, have those embryos? Because what'll happen is they're pulling embryos from the woman's body or eggs, right? Okay. And so you may end up with, let's say,
so they're taking eggs, and then they're meeting them with sperm
in a petri dish.
Okay,
yeah,
and then they're freezing them.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
For what?
So to be placed back into the woman, the mother.
But if the body is attacking them, then
they would have surgery to deal with that.
Okay.
Then have it put back into the woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If the body's not doing that, right? Let's just say there's other medical reasons that an individual.
So there's just medical reasons to need to do this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and so there's other medical reasons, and again, but every woman has to go through a lot of hormonal treatments and that kind of thing. And it takes a toll on the woman's body. I'll put it that way.
So basically, surrogacy is putting it in someone else's body, and IVF is putting it back in your body.
So yes, yeah. So for surrogacy, yes, it is IVF, but happening in another woman's. The fertilized eggs being placed in another woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the issue here?
Yeah. So the issue is the embryos. So let's say you've got 3. Well, usually you're gonna have more than that. You're gonna harvest maybe 6, 8, 9 eggs.
Embryos.
Mm-hmm.
Embryos.
Yeah.
Not eggs. Not just eggs. We're talking about embryos.
Right. Okay. But the eggs are harvested, right? From the woman.
Okay.
Fertilized.
That's a weird term.
I know.
Yeah.
It is. They're fertilized, right?
Okay.
Comes an embryo
Yeah.
at that point. And then at that point, so like just what you said, the embryo will be placed, it'd be frozen, right? Until the proper time. And they judge that on the woman's body and the timing of when to place the fertilized, or when to place the embryos in the body.
Okay.
And the woman and the couple, or if it's just a single woman, the woman will make the decision of how many embryos to actually have placed within her.
Oh, so she might have...
Because let's say she has one placed in her or two.
Okay.
Because, and then several will do two because they, they don't want to go through the process and then one of the embryos not survive. They don't want to go through that process and not have a kid out of it, basically.
Okay.
But there's always a risk. Embryos that are created through IVF are much more likely to split to where you would have twins out of there.
Why?
So just, I guess the nature of...
Because they were frozen?
And the nature of how they were made, that kind of thing. So and I'm sure someone with a science background give a much better explanation of the why there. So if you have two placed in you could end up with 4 kids, right? Or if you have one, it could split. You end up with twins.
What's the most anyone's ever done?
Well, remember,
what if you took all 9 of those things and shoved them up there?
Remember, there was the woman that had the octuplets. There was 8. She had 8 kids.
Oh yeah, at the same time.
At the same time.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, someone's got to beat it.
Right. No, well, they've actually put limits on it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
No, no, it's not healthy for a woman to carry that many children at one
45
time.
of them up there. Let's see what happens.
No, we're not going to. No.
Come on.
No.
Test the limits.
No.
Jump higher. Run faster.
This is not that, friend. This is not that. And so, so they do have the limits on there now. So the issue is, let's say you have 8 embryos. Okay.
Okay.
And you go through frozen.
Okay.
And you go through 2 different in vitros, and you decide to put 2 in each one, right?
Okay. So you got 4 left.
You got 4 left.
Yep.
The question, this is the ethical part.
Okay.
Is what do we do with these other 4? Because if they're children, if we deem them as human life,
which we do,
okay, then what do we do with those 4, right? And so if the answer to that question is we give them over to science, that's not good.
Okay.
And the better option would be that we give them to someone else who may need them.
For what?
So that they can have children.
Oh.
Now, again, it'd be kind of strange because they would literally be having your kids.
Right.
Yeah. And so...
Or you just throw them away. Right.
But the throwing away part can... I mean, I would not be okay with that. Like, I would not be comfortable with that ethically.
Okay.
Yeah, see, this is where... it's really... IVF really does cause a lot of ethical questions and, for some people, dilemmas.
I've never thought about this because, as we'll get to later, but if husband and wife or whoever was like, if this stuff happens all the time and we consider this just a consequence of trying to have a child, is like, and it's something that occurs naturally, but we're just doing it unnaturally. Is that an ethical way to look at it?
Yeah. Yeah, in the sense of, yes, we're trying to have children, and so therefore is the idea of, harvesting eggs, having semen, connected with those eggs to fertilize them and create embryos in a petri dish, is that all for the sake of trying to have children? Is that ethically okay? That in itself is, I am ethically okay with it.
Okay, why?
It's the fallout from
the
what happens with the rest.
But what you're saying though is that there would be, if two people were trying to do this naturally, there'd be natural fallout, right?
What do you mean? Two people trying to do this naturally?
Okay, so if two people are going to do IVF, then they've tried to do this, and either their body was attacking it,
right,
or embryos were getting created and getting stuck, or whatever.
Right. Sure.
So that would be natural embryos dying from trying to have children.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So IVF, if we just throw the things away, after the embryos away, that's essentially unnatural consequences of this couple trying to have children.
Yeah, but the throwing away part to me would be the unethical consequence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what if you just left them frozen and did nothing with them?
And there are those who have chosen to do that.
And just kept them frozen forever?
Yeah. And I don't know, and this is where, and it's, I don't know how long they're viable.
Okay, so what if we just let them freeze out and die naturally? Is that better?
To me, that would be better than just simply discarding them.
Okay.
Or even worse to me would be giving them over to science. Because science will actually take the embryos and allow them to develop further.
Right.
To then, do various
that's a whole
research on
separate
it. Yeah.
ethical
question. So I won't
get
into all that. Yeah.
Because that could help us know things for future people to be better at being alive later.
Right. And you get into the same whole discussions as you would with the stem cell research. And so,
but they figured that one out and now it's fine.
But for me, the IVF one with, when you're allowing them to grow, embryo to grow, and then you're doing medical research, that's I've got all kind of issues with that.
Okay. Well, that's messed up.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not understanding, if there's natural consequences to this couple having a children that results in dead embryos.
Right.
What's the difference between that and unnatural consequences of trying to have children that result in dead embryos?
I see what you're. I see what you're saying.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's the intentional things we're doing.
Okay.
Right. We're making intentional decisions of what we're doing with these embryos.
So why do they have to freeze so many at a time?
Because when they harvest the eggs, not all of the eggs are viable.
Oh.
Yeah. They're not viable initially, or they become non-viable, after they've been fertilized.
Right.
And so that's why they harvest as many as they do, to give the couple a chance to have at least a few. And the doctors will even say, hey, we're going to place what we think are the two most viable embryos in you. So they're able to kind of, quote unquote, judge the viability of these embryos.
Okay.
Because some of them don't make it at all. And some of them are So to
you, the only problem is when we have some left over.
Yes.
In this whole process.
This whole process. How do we go? Yes. That is my major issue. I guess the other one would be that the idea of kind of going through IVF the issue for me mainly is, what do we do with those that are left over?
Launch them into space.
Don't think that's a good idea.
So what's your solution then?
Well, again, I think the best case scenario is that individuals who can't even, because of the couple's own medical issues, can't even have viable embryos themselves. Okay? Because whether eggs aren't produced or semen's not viable from a person, right, from the husband, that they could be able to then use the embryos. And this is what does happen. They're able to use embryos of other couples.
Okay.
And I think that's a viable. So I think that's a viable use of those embryos.
Okay.
And so that's, to me, like best case scenario.
Christians don't like talking about this stuff.
They don't, I don't think.
No.
And
you said embryos like 800 times.
I did. I don't know how else you want me to refer to them as, though. Like, it's like, you know, because for me, this goes back. Remember when we did I keep saying adoption. I did it during the episodes too.
Yeah.
When we did the abortion episodes.
Yeah.
And it's all about determining when life begins.
Right.
And we came, like me, you know, I'm at the conclusion that life begins at conception.
Right.
With the embryo. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, that still has to hold for me, whether that's in the body or whether that's outside the body. And so I have to have the same. I have to be consistent in my ethic,
right,
in both situations. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes Christians are not. They're not consistent
mm-hmm.
in their ethic, and I think that they need to be. But again, that's a whole. Again, I know this is more a further ethical discussion, but I feel they need to be consistent, and so I'm just trying to be consistent with my ethic.
What if they like half-ass try to do something with it?
What do you mean? Like, give me like, what do you mean?
Like, what if they just?
I don't even know what you're going to say.
What if they just try to like throw it up there and see what happens? You know what I mean? The extra embryos.
No, like that is not how any of this works.
Yeah, well, like with a slingshot.
No.
Wider.
Oh God.
No. And is that good enough?
No.
Okay.
No, at all. Zero.
All right, fine.
It's not how any of this works. No, you can just slingshot it up there.
Yeah. So we tried and it died. Oops, accident.
No.
Father, forgive me. You know what I mean? We tried.
No.
All right. Next question.
The answer to the question is no. or reaction or response or whatever it is. No.
Okay, so I have another question that's not in here.
Okay.
And this may make it 3 episodes.
Oh, dear God.
All right. So in the future,
okay,
if we can completely produce human beings without a body around them.
Okay.
Like in a test tube.
Right. Kind of like cloning idea almost.
We can test tube some babies.
Uh-huh.
Not cloning.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
You can just put it in there and the whatever machine acts as a womb. Is that okay?
Give me an example how you think this would work.
Basically, if you don't work, then we don't have to because like we're talking about with IVF, some of them don't stick.
Sure.
Or whatever, or there's something wrong with the body that doesn't work.
Right.
So this is another option. It's like surrogacy, but with a machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So same process of surrogacy, but with a machine.
I don't want to be like the guy that cops out and it's like, well, let's just see if it actually happens when it gets there. So I won't do that. I really have a hard time believing we'll get there, but I think I get it 100 years ago, they wouldn't have believed we could be able to do IVF.
Right.
So I guess the question then is, you know, are we able, like the child being born outside of human contact and outside of, you know, being in a mother's womb,
mm-hmm.
what is going to be the impact on that child? Because I believe what's happening in the life of that child in the womb is much more than just the physical development of that child.
Okay.
That there's emotional and mental and even spiritual things that are happening in that child in the womb. And so because of being there with their mother, you know, and so I question what would happen in the development of these babies would they physically be able to, develop in 9 months and be a viable child outside of this, technological womb? Okay, but what happens? I guess I have deep concerns of what would happen with the emotional and mental parts of the image of God in that child, separated from being developed in the context that God had designed in the mother's womb. Because I think there's, it talks about the forming of the child in the mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
And, even I just think there's things going on there that are way beyond just the physical development. And so that would become the issue for me.
I mean, we won't know till we try. And someone's definitely going to try if it's possible.
Yeah. I guess I hope it's never possible. How about that? So.